The cool 5 a.m. air swirled around the room, but Emily's eyes, bloodshot and strained, were glued to her glowing laptop screen. Displayed across, there were dozens of photos of condos in Hawaii, each with a view of the impossibly blue Pacific Ocean. This one has a better condo, but that one has a nicer pool. She had been opening and closing tabs for 3 hours straight. In the dead silence of the pre-dawn hour, where even the click of her mouse felt loud, Emily let out a deep sigh. As she watched the clock's hands point to 5, a throbbing pain began to pulse at her temples. The tragedy had begun exactly 1 month ago. The family had gathered for dinner at her in-law's house, a regular occurrence. Suddenly, her mother-in-law, Helen, put down her spoon with a loud clatter and made an announcement. This summer, the whole family is going to Hawaii. I've spent my entire life working and looking after you all. Don't you think I deserve a break? As if on cue, her sister-in-law, Chloe, clapped her hands and squealed with delight. Oh, Mom, you're the best. I've been so stressed raising Lily. I desperately need to recharge. You're coming too, right, David? Her husband, David, simply nodded, too busy shoveling food into his mouth to speak. Emily sat there, stunned, her fork frozen midair. Helen stared at her, clicking her tongue in disapproval. Emily, why are you just sitting there with that blank look on your face? You should be the one to plan the trip. Your job is all about organizing paperwork and making plans for your company, so this should be a piece of cake for you, right? Flustered, Emily replied cautiously, Helen, that's a bit much for me to handle all on my own. Helen's eyebrows shot up. Then who else is going to do it? Chloe is swamped with the baby, and David is buried in work. As the daughter-in-law, it's your job to step up in times like these to keep the family happy. Isn't that right? Chloe, who had been scrolling through her phone, chimed in. I'd love to help. Emily, I really would. But Lily doesn't sit still for a second. I'm completely drained. You'll have to take one for the team. You're so good at this stuff anyway. From that night on, Emily's hellish, unpaid second job began. After a full day at her own job, she would come home, finish the housework, and then spend her nights until the early morning hours searching for Hawaiian accommodations and flights. A few days later, Emily opened her laptop in front of the family, who were gathered on the living room sofa. Helen, this place has 3 bedrooms and a fantastic ocean view. What do you think? But Helen's first question, as always, was about money. So, how much is it per night? It's about $400. Helen immediately scowled. What? Why so expensive? Aren't there any other options? There's another one for $300, but it only has 2 bedrooms, though it has a bigger pool. What should we do? Helen crossed her arms, pretending to think for a moment, before delivering a jaw-dropping conclusion. We absolutely need 3 bedrooms. One for me, one for you and David, and one for Chloe's family. But wait, where would you sleep? Emily. Stunned, Emily said, I'd sleep in the same room as David. Of course. Helen waved her hand dismissively, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. No, no. David has been so exhausted lately. If he's snoring, you won't get any sleep either, will you? You should sleep on the living room couch or somewhere separate. That way, my son can rest comfortably. Right? Emily bit her lip so hard it hurt, trying to swallow her rage. When she finally asked if she should book the more expensive option, Helen simply waved her off again. You figure it out, she said, neatly passing all responsibility for the decision back to Emily. The next morning, there was no rest for Emily. She was back at her computer before work, this time to book a rental car. Chloe had been calling her constantly with a list of demands. Emily, we need the best, top-of-the-line car seat for Lily. And the car has to be a big one, an SUV. I get really stressed out when we're cramped with all our luggage. Emily did as she was told, booking a large SUV with full coverage insurance. Just before clicking the confirm button, she hesitated over whose name to put on the reservation. After all, every single payment was being charged to her credit card. A knot of unease formed in her stomach, but she completed all the bookings under her own name. That evening, Helen cornered Emily the moment she got home from work, interrogating her. Emily, did you book the car? Did you get the insurance? Yes. I booked the safest option available. Good. Getting hurt overseas is a huge deal. So, make sure you get the premium traveler's insurance for all of us. You know, I'm on blood pressure medication. Just in case. Helen, the premium plan costs twice as much. Helen scoffed, as if it wasn't her money being spent. What's a little money? Health is the most important thing. You need to be thorough and take care of everything so we can all relax and trust you. Got it? Emily's monthly salary from her contract job was just over $2,500. The total cost she had charged to her card had already surpassed $4,000. She finalized the payments with the vague hope that they would reimburse her later, but Helen never once brought up the topic of money. Her sister-in-law, on the other hand, grew even more shameless. Emily, can you take care of Lily's passport application, too? And there's that parental consent form or something. Can you just fill it out for me? That kind of stuff gives me a headache. Chloe, the consent form has to be filled out by a parent. Ugh. Why do you have to be so difficult about everything? It wouldn't kill you to help a little. Chloe grumbled and hung up, leaving Emily feeling so empty that all she could do was let out a hollow laugh. A week later, all the preparations were complete. The plane tickets, the condo, the rental car, the traveler's insurance, every single reservation was under one name, Emily Clark. Her husband came home from work and tossed out a single, "You worked hard," before dropping a bombshell. "Honey, it looks like I might have a work trip that overlaps with our vacation. I'll let you know when it's confirmed." What? Are you serious right now? Do you have any idea how I've spent the last month preparing for this? It's work. What do you want me to do? Why are you being so sensitive? You guys can just go without me. David said it so casually before disappearing into the shower. Emily stood frozen, staring at the clock on the living room wall. Why am I putting myself through all this? She thought, tears welling up in her eyes. But in that moment, a chillingly brilliant plan began to form in her mind. The flights are in my name. The condo is in my name. The car and the insurance, it's all in my name. A strange, sly smile crept across her lips as she muttered to herself, I wonder what would happen to my wonderful in-laws if I just didn't go on this trip. Emily's eyes glinted with a cold light, sharper than ever before. Emily, what time do we have to be at the airport tomorrow? I'm so excited I can't even sleep. Stirring a pot of stew with a ladle, Emily answered dryly. The flight is at 10 a.m., so we need to leave the house by 7 a.m. at the latest. What? 7 o'clock? Why so early? An old woman like me needs her sleep. That's just cruel. Emily ignored Helen's grumbling and continued serving the food. Helen stirred her own bowl again and asked, So, is everything packed? You made sure to pack all my clothes and cosmetics, right? You were thorough. Helen, I put your packed suitcase in your bedroom earlier. My own bags are packed, too. Just then, her husband David, who was eating beside her, chimed in. Honey, where's my stuff? My swim trunks and shorts? You can pack your own things. I'm not your personal assistant. Is it too much to ask for you to pack your own suitcase when you're supposedly so busy with work? Stunned by Emily's icy response, David stopped eating. Helen, as if she had been waiting for this moment, slammed her spoon on the table and raised her voice. Look at her. Emily, is that any way to talk to your husband? What do men know about things like that? You're supposed to take care of it for him. As his wife, supporting your husband is your job, isn't it? David works so hard to provide for this family, and you can't even be bothered to pack a single bag for him. Emily met Helen's glare without flinching. I work to provide for this family, too, Helen. I come home from my job and stay up until dawn creating reservation lists and organizing documents. I barely had time to pack my own things. The table fell silent for a moment, but then Chloe, bouncing Lily on her lap, started to whine. Emily, I'm going crazy trying to pack. 2. Lily's things take up a whole suitcase, and I don't even know where to put my own clothes. After dinner, could you come to my room and help me sort this out? You're so good at organizing things neatly. Pack your own bags, Chloe. You're Lily's mother. At Emily's firm refusal, Chloe pouted and shot her a dirty look. Wow, Emily, that's just cold. You know how busy I am with Lily. How can you be so heartless? You don't even have kids, so you have plenty of time. Is it really such a big deal to help me out a little? You're making me feel terrible. Helen quickly jumped to Chloe's defense. She's right. Chloe is telling you how hard it is for her, and you're not going to lift a finger to help your own sister-in-law? You're getting more cold-hearted by the day. Do you think Chloe will ever help you when you have kids of your own? Is this how your parents raised you? The mention of her parents made Emily put down her spoon. She stared directly at Helen. Helen, why are you bringing my parents into this? And I simply cannot understand why I should be packing my sister-in-law's suitcase. Does she not have hands? Or feet? Isn't it common sense to pack your own luggage for your own trip? How dare you talk back to me? Are you defying your mother-in-law right now? Why are you trying to bring bad luck on us the day before our trip? As Helen shrieked, Lily was startled and burst into tears. Chloe, pretending to comfort her daughter, glared at Emily. See? You scared Lily. None of this would have happened if you just helped. Why are you being so selfish? Are you going to be like this on the trip, too? Selfish? You're the one who's selfish. It wasn't enough to dump all the trip planning on me, and now you want me to pack your bags? Am I the nanny for this family? As the atmosphere grew hostile, David grabbed Emily's arm with a troubled look. Honey, just help them out. Like Mom said, if we want to have a good time on vacation, all you have to do is give in a little. Why do you have to make such a big deal out of it? Give in? You don't think everything I've done up to this point was giving in? The flight reservations, the condo, the rental car, it's all booked in my name and paid for with my credit card. Did any of you contribute a single dollar? Did any of you even say thank you once? At Emily's outburst, a stunned silence fell over the table, as if someone had thrown a bucket of ice water on them. But Helen quickly recovered, scoffing and crossing her arms. Money? You're part of this family, so of course you paid for it. Are you trying to hold that over our heads now? I had no idea you were so stingy. Fine. If you don't want to do it, then don't. But from the moment we land in Hawaii tomorrow, you're on your own. You said you didn't want to hold Lily's hand and look after her. So go sightseeing by yourself for all I care. We'll have a lovely time as a family, just us. Chloe, smirking triumphantly, added her own jab. That's right, Emily. If you're going to be so difficult, you'll just ruin the mood for everyone. I won't ask for your help either, so we can all just do our own thing. See you at the airport tomorrow, Mom. Instead of replying, Emily stood up and quietly walked to her room. She pulled out the suitcase she had stored under the bed and stared at it. She reached for the zipper, then stopped. Why should I even take this? She pushed the suitcase back under the bed and opened her laptop. On the screen was the flight confirmation, with the passenger's name, Emily Clark, clearly displayed. In the cancellation policy section, the words non-refundable, non-changeable glowed in red. Looking at those words, Emily felt a strange sense of satisfaction. From outside, she could still hear Helen and Chloe badmouthing her, how she had no manners, how she probably wouldn't even help with the luggage at the airport lost in their own delusional world. But Emily simply put in her earbuds and calmly set her phone alarm. The thought of how their faces would look at the airport check-in counter tomorrow morning felt like a cool breeze sweeping through her chest. A chilling smile touched her lips as she drifted off to sleep. At 5 a.m., in the pitch-black darkness of her room, Emily's eyes snapped open. On any other day, she would have dragged her heavy body out of bed like a lamb to the slaughter to prepare breakfast for her mother-in-law. But today, her mind was clearer than ever. The suitcase sitting next to her bed remained firmly shut. Emily glanced at it and smiled coldly. Instead of the suitcase, she grabbed the old tote bag she used every day and stuffed in 2 changes of casual clothes and some toiletries. When she stepped into the living room, she could hear Helen's booming snores coming from the master bedroom. Quietly, but without hesitation, Emily opened the front door. The click of the latch sounded as cheerful as a bell, signaling her escape from hell. Emily immediately hailed a cab and headed to her mother's house. The crisp morning air flowing through the car window had never tasted so sweet. When she rang her mother's doorbell, Susan came to the door, rubbing the sleep from her eyes. She gasped in surprise. Emily, what on earth are you doing here at this hour? I thought you were going to Hawaii. Emily buried her face in her mother's embrace and said softly, Mom, I decided not to go. I just want to stay here, eat your food, and rest. Is that okay? Susan looked at her daughter's pale face and, without asking any more questions, squeezed her hand tightly. Of course, it's okay. You did the right thing. My poor girl, you must have been through so much to come here at this hour. Come in, quick. I'll make you a warm bowl of my chili. Emily sat at the table her mother had set for her. For over a decade at her in-laws, she had catered to everyone else's tastes, forgetting what she herself even liked to eat. One spoonful of her mother's chili brought tears to her eyes. After eating, Emily lay down on the bed in her old room and turned on her phone. As expected, it had already exploded. Dozens of missed calls. The family group chat was a barrage of frantic messages. The first one that caught her eye was from her mother-in-law, Helen. Emily, where are you? You're not at home, and you're not answering your phone. Have you lost your mind? We're at the check-in counter, and we can't do anything without you. Call me right now. Emily snorted and swiped to the next message. This one was from her sister-in-law, Chloe. Emily, are you crazy? Lily is having a complete meltdown at the airport. The candy and all her documents you were supposed to bring are in your bag. They said we can't even leave the country without those papers. What kind of hide-and-seek game are you playing? Get your butt over here now. Chloe's entitled attitude only made Emily's gaze grow colder. Her husband, David, had also chimed in. Honey, this joke isn't funny anymore. Do you have any idea how furious Mom and Chloe are? You made all the reservations. We can't do anything if you're not here. Please, just answer the phone. We're about to miss our flight. Leaning back comfortably on the bed, Emily typed a single sentence into the group chat. I am not going on this trip. Figure it out yourselves at the airport. The moment she sent it, a call came through from Helen. Emily calmly pressed the speakerphone button. Helen's ear-splitting shriek filled the room. Are you out of your mind? What do you mean you're not coming? The plane tickets, the hotel, everything is in your name. What are we supposed to do if you're not here? In a calm, low voice, Emily replied, You told me the other day, Helen. You told me to go off and do my own thing. So, I've decided to do my own thing my way. I'm currently lying in bed in my old room at my mom's house. It's very comfortable. What? Your mother's? You're at your mother's house? David, your wife ran off to her parents. Emily, you get over here right now. The credit card you paid with and all the confirmation emails are on your phone. Do you want us to become stranded here? Is that what would make you happy? Chloe's shrill voice cut in. Emily, how could you be so cruel? This is Lily's first trip overseas, and you're ruining everything. At least email us the reservation numbers. Emily chuckled softly. Chloe, you're Lily's mother. The one who ruined Lily's trip is you, the person who didn't prepare a single thing and dumped it all on someone else. And Helen, you mentioned the confirmations, right? I just deleted all of them. Cleaning out my inbox felt so refreshing. What? Deleted? Are you insane? Do you know how much money that was? You wicked, horrible. You just wait until you get back. I'll make you pay for this. Helen was screaming like a fishmonger at a market, but her words had no effect on Emily. In fact, she found the sound of her screaming rather enjoyable. Please don't swear, Helen. It's unpleasant to listen to. And you know everything was non-refundable, right? You're about to lose over $4,000 of my money. Instead of fighting at the airport, you should all head home safely. Oh, and the car was rented in my name, so you probably won't be able to get it anyway. Well, goodbye. After hanging up, Emily turned her phone off, completely. When she went out to the living room, her mother, Susan, was looking at her with worried eyes. Emily gave her a bright smile. Don't worry, Mom. I'm finally free. Let's go out and get something delicious to eat today. My treat. Right now, at O'Hare International Airport, Helen and Chloe were probably at each other's throats, blaming one another. Imagining the glorious chaos, Emily took a crisp bite of the apple her mother had sliced for her. It was the most satisfying, refreshing morning of her entire life. Sitting on the cozy sofa in her mother's living room, the world felt incredibly peaceful. But the phone in Emily's pocket vibrated incessantly, a stark reminder of a different world trying to break through. It was 6 p.m., and the screen lit up with her husband David's name. Emily didn't even glance at it, simply placing the phone face down. But the vibrations didn't stop. Next, it was her mother-in-law, Helen, then her sister-in-law, Chloe, then David again. The three of them were calling in rotation, making the coffee table tremble. Her mother, Susan, who was preparing dinner in the kitchen, asked cautiously, Emily, the phone keeps ringing. Are you sure you don't want to answer it? With her eyes fixed on the television, Emily replied calmly, No, Mom, I'm not answering. It'll just be the same old complaints. Why waste my energy? Susan nodded at her daughter's firm resolve. All right, honey, you do whatever makes you feel at ease. When the calls went unanswered, voicemails began piling up around 8 p.m. A curious smile on her face, Emily pressed the speakerphone button. The first message was from David. His voice was a mix of bewilderment and irritation. Emily, it's me. I'm at the airport. Where in the world are you? Just pick up the phone. Mom and Chloe keep asking where you are, and I don't know what to tell them. Please, stop this game and just call me. His tone was urgent, but it was clear he still hadn't grasped the situation and was only concerned with blaming his wife. Emily scoffed and played the next message. This time, it was Helen's sharp, commanding voice. Emily, it's me. What is this ridiculous stunt you're pulling? We're all at the airport. What are we supposed to do if you're not here? Get in a taxi and get over here right now. Do you understand? If you're late, I won't forgive you. Helen was still acting as if she were in charge, barking orders at Emily. Next was Chloe's saccharine, manipulative voice. Emily, it's me. You have no idea how much Lily is asking for you at the airport. She's crying her eyes out because you're not here. What am I supposed to do? We can't go on our trip without you. Please, while I'm asking nicely, just show up. Please. Her voice was cloyingly sweet, but underneath it lay an arrogance that treated Emily like a disobedient servant. By 1 p.m., the number of messages had grown to 25, and the family's tone had shifted from condescending to furious. David was now begging her to stop joking around, pleading with her to think of his reputation because his mother was at her wit's end. Helen was screaming about a daughter-in-law's duty and demanding to know what she had ever done to deserve being humiliated like this. Chloe, in particular, was shrieking as if her feet were on fire. Emily, you have all of Lily's travel documents. We can't even check in because we don't know where the parental consent form is. The traveler's insurance is tied to your name, too. What are we supposed to do? For God's sake, just call us back. Emily saved each of these messages, calmly taking screenshots. It was a process of gathering evidence so they couldn't deny their words later. At 3 p.m., Helen finally seemed to grasp the fatal flaw in their vacation plan. A screeching voicemail burst from the speaker. Emily Clark, you planned this, didn't you? The condo reservation is in your name. The rental car is in your name. Even the insurance, you put everything in your name. You plan to leave us high and dry from the very beginning, didn't you? How can a human being do something so wicked? Helen's voice trembled with rage. Emily listened to the desperate cry and calmly pressed the save button. David now sounded like he was on the verge of a complete breakdown, sobbing that he would apologize for everything if she would just show up. Chloe tried to play the sympathy card, saying Lily was crying on the dirty airport floor. By 5 p.m., the family group chat had descended into a special kind of hell. They had apparently confirmed that without the documents Emily had, the minor, Lily, would be barred from boarding the plane. When they learned that the insurance and rental car were also invalid without the primary booker, Emily, being present, Helen began spamming the chat with demands for her to get here now. Emily read through the frantic messages and explained the situation to her mother. They can't leave the country because they don't have Lily's papers, and the insurance and car are all under my name, so they can't use any of it. Susan clicked her tongue. So, the trip is completely off, then? Yup, absolutely. Emily replied with a refreshing sense of finality. The last voicemail, which came in at 9 p.m., was an explosion. Helen now sounded like she had completely lost her mind. Emily, you ruined this entire vacation. The condo deposit, the flight cancellation fees, we've lost thousands of dollars because of you. You're going to take responsibility for all of it. You're going to pay us back every single cent. Do you hear me? Listening to the message, Emily muttered to herself. I booked it with my money, and I chose not to go. What money are they talking about paying back? The absurdity was almost funny. By 11 p.m., the missed call count had surpassed 150. Emily methodically organized all of it into a folder labeled evidence. Susan brought her a blanket, tucking her in. Forget everything for tonight and get some sleep, honey. Tomorrow's problems can wait until tomorrow. In the warmth of her mother's care, Emily turned her phone off completely. The silence that came with the dark screen was sweeter than she could have imagined. For the first time since she got married, Emily fell into a deep, worry-free sleep. At O'Hare International Airport, the departures hall was a chaotic sea of travelers by 9 a.m. Dressed in a loud floral blouse, her mother-in-law, Helen, stood proudly at the check-in counter, a large suitcase in tow. Behind her, Chloe followed with a fussy Lily in her arms, her face a mask of irritation. Her husband, David, struggled with a cart piled high with luggage, constantly scanning the crowd. Helen stomped her foot and snapped at David. David, is that woman still not here? I've called her a dozen times, and she's nowhere to be seen. Is she deliberately trying to torment her mother-in-law? David wiped sweat from his brow, his eyes glued to his phone screen. Mom, she's not picking up at all. The calls are going through, but I think she's intentionally ignoring them. Helen clicked her tongue and practically threw a bundle of passports at the counter agent. Here, check us in for our flight to Hawaii. 3 adults and 1 child. That's 4, right? The agent, with a polite smile, checked the passports. She stared at her computer screen for a long moment, then tilted her head. Ma'am, I'm sorry, but could you please confirm the reservation number? The primary booker is listed as an Emily Clark, but I don't see anyone by that name here. David quickly held out his phone, explaining that his wife had made the booking. The agent's expression turned troubled. Sir, this type of ticket requires the primary booker to be present for verification. If Miss Emily Clark is not here, I'm afraid I cannot check in the rest of the party. Hearing this, Helen slammed her palm on the counter. What kind of nonsense is this? The person who booked it is my daughter-in-law. The family can go in her place. Why does she have to be here in person? We're going to miss our flight. The agent, though flustered, firmly explained the policy. When she reiterated that boarding passes could not be issued without in-person verification, Chloe, holding Lily, began to cry. Oh my God, so we really can't go? That witch Emily. David, do something. I got my nails done just for Hawaii. David pleaded with the agent again. My wife had an emergency and couldn't make it. Can't we just call her and have her verify over the phone? The agent agreed to this compromise, but Emily's phone remained silent. Helen's face was now a blotchy red as she began screaming, her voice echoing through the terminal. This is all that witch's plot to screw us over. I told her to handle the trip, and this is how she stabs us in the back. I swear, when I get my hands on her, I'll. Just then, the agent, who had been looking closely at Lily, added another piece of bad news. Excuse me, but as you are traveling with a minor, did you bring the parental consent form and proof of relationship documents? Chloe stared blankly. A parental consent form? What's that? The agent explained that it was a mandatory document when a minor travels internationally with only one parent, and without it, the child would absolutely be denied boarding. Chloe's face went pale as she looked at David. David, isn't that the document Emily said she would take care of? She said she had all the papers in her bag. David clutched his head in despair. The documents were in Emily's bag, and all the power in this situation was held by Emily. There was nothing they could do. Helen began making a scene, screaming for a manager. But when the manager arrived, he told her the exact same thing. As per airline policy, no primary booker, no boarding. To make matters worse, David's phone rang with an international call from the rental car company in Hawaii. They were informing him that the car could not be picked up by anyone other than the renter, Emily Clark, and that a same-day cancellation was non-refundable. Overhearing this, Helen looked as if she might faint. What? We can't even get the car? Then, what about the condo? Whose name is the condo in? With trembling hands, David checked the confirmation email. His voice was filled with despair. Mom, the condo is in Emily's name, too. It says we need the booker's credit card to verify a check-in. Without Emily, we'll be sleeping on the street. At that, Helen collapsed onto the floor and began to sob hysterically, wailing about how she had worked her whole life just to take one vacation, only to have it ruined by her evil daughter-in-law. Chloe started crying too, claiming her life was ruined because of Emily, as Lily wailed in fear. David was so mortified by the stares and whispers of onlookers that he couldn't even lift his head. The check-in agent glanced at the clock and said politely, I'm very sorry, but the check-in for your flight has now closed. Even if Miss Clark were to arrive now, boarding would be impossible. Hearing this, Helen kicked her suitcase and spewed a stream of curses. Just 2 hours after arriving at the airport dreaming of Hawaii's blue seas, their entire plan had been shattered. Thousands of dollars in plane tickets and accommodation fees had vanished into thin air. But not once did Helen reflect on their gaslighting or unreasonable demands. In her mind, this disaster was solely Emily's fault for not showing up. Her eyes burned with a fury that made it look as if she was ready to march out and drag Emily there by her hair. As the plane to Hawaii soared into the clear sky above, Helen and her family were left abandoned in the middle of the airport, consumed by rage and emptiness, screaming and blaming one another. After the humiliating spectacle at the airport, Helen stormed through the front door of her house, kicking off her shoes and sending them flying into the middle of the living room. Her hands trembled with fury as she shrieked at her son, David. Call her parents' house right now. What are you doing just standing there, you useless fool? David shoved the messy suitcases into a corner and buried his face in his hands. Mom, what am I supposed to say if I call now? You think she's going to come back just because I call? What are you supposed to say? I just lost thousands of dollars. This isn't about her coming back or not. We have to get that money back. Thousands of dollars. Helen collapsed onto the sofa, pounding her chest. Chloe, her eyes blazing, added her 2 cents. Mom, isn't Emily insane? Do you know how humiliated we were in front of everyone at the airport today? I told all my friends I was going to Hawaii. How am I supposed to show my face now? She has to take responsibility for all of this. With a shaking hand, Helen snatched her phone and dialed the number for Emily's mother, Susan. After a few rings, Susan answered. Helen skipped the pleasantries and went straight to screaming. Hello, Susan? It's me, Helen. Oh, yes, Helen. What can I do for you at this hour? Susan's voice was so calm, it only fueled Helen's rage. Gasping for breath, Helen spat out. What can you do for me? Your daughter completely destroyed our family vacation today. I mean, what kind of person does this? Disappearing on the day of departure without a word. Is she even human? Helen, please calm down. I'm not sure what kind of decision Emily made to cause this. Decision? You call this a decision? This is a betrayal. A deliberate, calculated betrayal. She sent us all the way to the airport, just to go into hiding. The condo was in her name. The car was in her name. The insurance, everything was in her name. If she just bails, what were we supposed to do? Susan was silent for a moment before asking in a low voice, Helen, who paid for all those reservations? Well, Emily charged it to her card, obviously. We were going to reimburse her. But how can we do that when she pulls a stunt like this? You were going to reimburse her? When did you make that promise? Did Emily receive a confirmation that you would pay her back? Or did your family perhaps offer to pay for some of it up front? Helen was speechless, her lips trembling. Well, we're family. We could have settled it amicably after the trip. Do we really need to exchange receipts? Of course, we were going to pay her back. There's no of course, Helen. Emily paid for it with her money, so it makes sense that everything was in her name. And for your information, my daughter is right here at my house. She's resting very comfortably. Helen's eyes widened in fury. What? She's there? Put her on the phone. Right now. She heard the phone being passed, and a moment later, Emily's cool voice came on the line. Hello, Helen. Emily, have you lost your mind? What do you think you're doing? Hiding out over there. You get back here this instant. I'm lying in my own bed at my parents' house. This isn't a game. So please stop screaming. Resting? What right do you have to rest? We lost thousands of dollars because of you. What gives you the right to ruin our vacation? My right. I booked it with my money, so I have the right to cancel it as I see fit. When Helen was too choked with rage to speak, David snatched the phone and began to plead. Honey, it's me. Please. This is too extreme. Can we just talk about this? You think this is extreme? What about you and your mother treating me like a nanny and trying to force me to pack your sister's bags the night before the trip? That wasn't extreme? Still, this isn't the way. Do you know how much Mom and your sister cried at the airport? I've cried every day in your house for the past 5 years. Did you ever once take my side? I made all the travel arrangements. Flights, accommodations, rental car, everything was perfect. But I never agreed to go on that trip with you. Chloe, who had been listening in, grabbed the phone and shrieked. Emily, what about our money? We can't get a refund for anything. Are you going to pay us back? Don't be delusional. That was all my money. Not a single cent of yours was spent. Why are you freaking out when I'm the one who chose to throw my own money away? You booked it, so of course it was our trip. You knew we couldn't do anything without you, so you did this on purpose, didn't you? That's right. If you're all so helpless without me, then why did you treat me so carelessly? If you can't even manage a single meal without me, why did you think you could dump your own daughter on me? Consider this the price for your arrogance. For her final blow, Emily spoke loudly, making sure Helen could hear. Helen, since nothing is refundable, it's my financial loss. Don't worry about it. It wasn't your money anyway. You must be exhausted after your ordeal at the airport. So please get some rest. I'm off to live my own life now. The line went dead. Helen stood there, holding the phone, completely stunned. David collapsed onto the sofa, burying his head in his hands and laughing hollowly. It's all gone. Thousands of dollars. Just gone. Chloe, furious, started hitting David. This is your fault for not managing her properly. Why did she become so vicious? Helen stared blankly at the ceiling and muttered. We were played. Completely played by that witch of a daughter-in-law. Their glamorous Hawaiian dream was in tatters. All that remained was resentment for one another and a mountain of non-refundable bills. The living room was filled with nothing but the sharp, ugly sound of them blaming each other. A week had passed. Emily was spending her days at her mother's house in a state of peace and comfort she hadn't known for years. Instead of rushing to the kitchen every morning under the watchful eye of her mother-in-law, she woke up leisurely, bathed in the warm sunlight streaming through her window. Her mother, Susan, would prepare a loving breakfast for her and ask gently, "Emily, how long are you planning to stay? I love having you here, of course, but I'm worried about how you're feeling." Emily took a large bite of food and looked out the window. "Mom, I'm going to be here for a while, maybe for a very long time. Is that okay?" Susan smiled, stroking her daughter's weary face. "Of course, it's okay. This is your home. Who's going to say otherwise? Don't you worry about a thing and just rest until you feel better." In stark contrast to Emily's peaceful mornings, a war of attrition was being waged at her in-laws' house. In the living room, her sister-in-law Chloe's screams echoed from early in the morning. "David, are you done getting Lily ready for daycare? Where are her clothes? Where did you put her backpack? I'm going to be late." Chloe, with her hair in a mess, chased Lily around the living room, while Lily, terrified by her mother's sharp tone, burst into tears. David, in the middle of tying his tie for work, snapped back in frustration. "Why are you asking me? I'm about to be late for work myself. Emily always handled that stuff. How am I supposed to know?" "Well, what am I supposed to do? I'm missing my morning classes because of Lily. When is Emily coming back? You need to go and drag her back here right now." David stormed past Chloe and out the door. "I don't know," he yelled, his words muffled by the slamming door. "My life is a mess right now, too." Left alone in the living room, Chloe slumped to the floor and began to cry. Helen, who had just emerged from her room, clicked her tongue at the sight. "Chloe, stop making the child cry and take her to the park or something. This house is a disaster." At Helen's words, Chloe glared at her. "Mom, are you not going to help with Lily at all? I have my own work to do, you know. None of this would be happening if Emily were here. Why is everyone just sitting around doing nothing?" Helen sank onto the sofa and let out a deep sigh. She had called her daughter-in-law hundreds of times to no avail, and her pride wouldn't allow her to chase after her all the way to her parents' house. That evening, what greeted David upon his return from work was not a warm dinner, but the stale smell of neglect and overflowing trash bags. Wrinkling his nose at the stench, he asked, "Mom, what's for dinner? I'm starving." "You didn't cook?" Helen, staring blankly at the TV, replied with annoyance, "Fix something yourself. I've had a headache all day and haven't moved an inch." "Mom, you have to cook. You have no idea how hard I work today. Are you the only one who works hard? The daughter-in-law is supposed to cook, not me. Why should I have to slave over a stove at my age? I can't do it anymore. I'm done." As Helen shrieked, David was left speechless and went to the kitchen, but opening the refrigerator only brought more despair. The containers were either empty or growing mold, and the rice cooker held only a few yellowed, days-old grains of rice. In the end, David sighed and opened a food delivery app. A short while later, Chloe stood in the living room, spitting venom at Helen. "Mom, when is Emily coming back? I'm at my limit. The laundry is piled up to the ceiling. Lily cries for her aunt every day, and this house is a pigsty." Helen shot a sharp look at her daughter. "Whether I can handle it or not is my problem. And you listen to me carefully. Half the reason Emily left is your fault, too." Chloe was dumbfounded. "My fault? What did I do?" "You were constantly dumping Lily on her. You treated your sister-in-law like she was your personal nanny. All of that built up and exploded." Chloe's voice trembled with indignation. "You were the same, Mom. Who was the one ordering her to feed Lily and pack her bags? Why are you blaming only me now? As the child's mother, you should have been grateful that your sister-in-law was doing the work you were supposed to do. You should have known better. Then you should have helped from the beginning. Instead of passing everything to Emily, you should have stepped in and helped me yourself." Chloe screamed before storming into her room and slamming the door. Helen, feeling a tightness in her chest, gulped down glass after glass of water before finally calling Emily again. Miraculously, this time the call went through and Emily answered. "What is it?" At Emily's cold, emotionless voice, Helen deliberately lowered her own, speaking softly. "Emily, let's stop being angry and talk. When are you planning on coming home?" "I'm not coming back, Helen." "What? What do you mean you're not coming back? I know you're upset about the trip, but you can't just abandon your home." Emily was silent for a moment before declaring in a voice as cold as ice. I am quitting my role as the daughter-in-law of that house. I'm currently preparing the divorce papers. Helen felt the air leave her lungs. She had never dreamed that the word divorce would come so easily from her daughter-in-law's lips. Divorce? Emily, are you in your right mind? You've been married for 8 years. How can you say that so easily? Married? For the past 8 years, I was treated not like a person in that house, but like a home appliance. You worked me like a maid. David never once stood up for me. And your daughter dumped her own child on me without a single word of thanks. That's because we're family. We're supposed to help each other. Family? Was there a single person in that house who ever treated me like family? You told me to cook even when I was sick, and you forbade me from visiting my own parents during the holidays. You made me plan and pay for the entire Hawaii trip with my own money, only to tell me to act as Lily's babysitter. Is that what you call family? Helen couldn't say a word. Emily's voice was calm, but it was filled with 8 years of accumulated, monumental rage. Don't call me again. The next communication you receive will be from my lawyer. The line went dead. Helen sat on the sofa, phone in hand, looking utterly lost. Chloe emerged from her room with a puzzled expression. Mom, what did Emily say? Is she coming back tomorrow? Helen's head drooped. She's divorcing him, she muttered. Emily said she's filing for divorce. At those words, Chloe's face went white. She sank to the floor, staring blankly ahead. From inside the room, Lily's piercing cries could be heard, but no one had the energy to get up and comfort her. At that moment, Emily hung up the phone and looked up at the dark night sky. The twinkling stars seemed to be blessing her future. For the first time, she felt a great weight lift from her chest. With a small smile, she settled in for a deep, peaceful sleep. It was finally time to escape from that hell for good. It took exactly 1 month for Emily to return to the house she had fled. Pulling a heavy suitcase, she opened the front door to that familiar hell once more. In just a month, the house had become shockingly bleak. Her mother-in-law, Helen, was sitting on the living room sofa, watching television. She didn't even turn her head when Emily walked in, simply muttering, "You're back?" Emily gave a short, "Yes," in response to the cold greeting and went straight to her room. Her husband, David, who had been sitting listlessly on the bed, approached her without a hint of welcome. "Honey, you're finally back? We need to talk." But Emily didn't even look at him. She opened the closet and began to sort her things. "There's nothing to talk about." She cut him off. David, flustered, pleaded, "But we're married. How can we not talk?" "Married? Only on paper," Emily retorted coolly, continuing to fold her clothes in silence. The next morning, Helen's power games began anew. She walked into the kitchen, fully expecting to boss Emily around as she used to. "Emily, I'm having some friends over for lunch today, so make sure you prepare plenty of food," she ordered. But Emily, sipping her coffee leisurely, didn't even look at her. "I can't do that," she replied flatly. Helen couldn't believe her ears. "What? You can't? Are you defying your mother-in-law?" she shrieked. Emily set down her cup and looked Helen directly in the eye. "Yes, I can't. It's not my job anymore. If you thought it was a daughter-in-law's duty to do all the housework, it's time to abandon that illusion. Do it yourself, or have your son David do it." Helen stood with her mouth agape, speechless. Emily rinsed her cup, placed it on the shelf, and walked back to her room. In the living room, Helen fumed to herself. She's really lost her mind. But Emily didn't bat an eye. A week later, her sister-in-law, Chloe, joined the fray. Shamelessly, she called and said, "Emily, you know it's Lily's birthday next week, right? Could you book a pretty cake and order some party food like you always do?" Emily scoffed. "No," she replied. "Why not?" Chloe whined, taken aback. "You always did it before. Before was before, and now is now. It's your daughter's birthday, so you can do it yourself," Emily said before hanging up abruptly. Amid this uncomfortable cohabitation, the major holiday of Thanksgiving arrived. Helen, determined to finally break her daughter-in-law's spirit, summoned Emily to the living room. "Emily, what are you planning to cook for Thanksgiving this year?" "We'll need plenty of turkey and all the sides," she said, applying subtle pressure. But Emily, with her laptop open and reviewing documents, replied nonchalantly, "I'm not doing it." Helen clutched the back of her neck. "What? You're not going to cook for Thanksgiving? Are you completely insane?" she yelled. Without taking her eyes off the screen, Emily continued, "That's right. I'm not. You can do it, or you can ask your precious daughter who's so busy with Lily. If you need food, There are plenty of catering services these days. Order something. Cater? How can you cater Thanksgiving dinner? Are you not listening to me? Helen stomped her feet, but Emily had already put on her earbuds and was focused on her work. Not a single one of Helen's shrieks reached her ears. Furious, Helen called David. You need to do something about your wife. This household is falling apart, she screamed. But David's reply only deepened her despair. Mom, I can't do anything about Emily. You'll have to do it yourself or ask Chloe for help. I'm swamped with work. On Thanksgiving Day, with Emily not lifting a finger, the house was filled not with the savory aroma of roasting turkey, but with a chilling silence. Helen and Chloe had to make a frantic trip to the grocery store to buy pre-made, lukewarm sides and a sad-looking pie. Chloe, sweating as she tried to reheat the food, grumbled, Mom, is Emily really not coming out of her room? It's Thanksgiving. This is too much. Helen, setting the table, muttered, Forget about her coming out. I told her dinner was ready, and she said she wasn't hungry and didn't even open the door. To think I brought such a wicked woman into this family. What a miserable fate. At dinner, Emily's empty seat was a painful void. The family, who had always been served a lavish feast prepared by Emily, now sat in front of a pathetic spread they had thrown together themselves, eating in silence. Helen hid mid-meal. Before, Emily would have had everything prepared. What kind of Thanksgiving is this? I know, Chloe chimed in. It's exhausting, trying to do all this ourselves. I can barely manage feeding Lily and reheating the food. At that very moment, in her room, Emily was checking a message from her lawyer's office on her phone. A message confirming her divorce consultation appointment. She looked up at the bright full moon shining outside. The sounds of her family's bickering and complaining from the living room now felt like a story from a distant land. Emily quietly put in her earbuds and closed her eyes. Her in-laws were only now beginning to realize it. The heavy weight of the void left by the woman who had silently shouldered all their burdens. But for Emily, their suffering was no longer her concern. Armed with silence, her most powerful weapon, she had finished her final preparations to leave this miserable house for good.